I welcome all of you on Yourpedia Education, and you are watching the series of interaction with visionaries. So today I'm going to interact with one of such personality who is having diverse experience of I'll say academics and industrial exposure in different domains, in different sectors. When you see this on the thumbnail, 40% of the jobs are going to vanish in next 15 years. What comes to the mind is, oh, we are going to lose the jobs. But there is another aspect to see that. Another aspect is like if 40% of the present jobs are going to be vanished or going to, we are going to lose these jobs, then new opportunities are going to come up. Only thing is we as a technocrat, we should always see where future is going to take us. I mean, what new opportunities are going to come. So we are as of now going through a phase of pandemic. New things have come up, like work from home has come up. Jobs shrinkage of different sectors we have seen, growth of certain sectors we have seen. In India, if I talk about public sector, government sector is shrinking, private domains are coming up. So there are different things which we are observing, and next couple of years are going to be very, I'll say, remarkable in the sense, and we need to identify, we need to see what are the new opportunities. So in today's interaction, Dr. Thite, who is a very diverse personality, he started his career in India in IT domain, IT industries, and that was a time IT industry was booming. In fact, he was the leader in IT industry, that is what I can say, professional in IT sector, who was actually involved in IT industry at the time of outsourcing. People were going to developed nations like US, Australia. He shares his experience with that. After attaining his diverse and enriched IT sector experience in top companies like TCS and small companies, he shifted over to academics. So very less people will dare to do that, and in academics also, not into the teaching of theoretical concepts, but he prefers to solve the real life problems, publish the books also, and he's presently leading a very enriched academic profile. So I got the opportunity to interact with Dr. Mohan Thite today, and during my interaction, so presently Dr. Thite is associated with academics, as I told you, and he is working as faculty in business school, where he prefers to solve the real industrial problems. That is what you will listen to him during interaction. So I could interact with him on certain points, very relevant points. uh, how somebody will, why somebody will shift from corporate, where he's getting very good salary and package from corporate sector industries, something like IT industry, to academia, right? So that is the point I discussed with him. So work from home, which is the new thing come up during pandemic, what are the positives and negatives of that? Yes, there are positives of work from home, and as per Dr. Thite, it is going to be permanent things now. Work from home is going to be permanent. So what are the various leadership styles? So our industries, there's a leadership crisis always. So what are the different leadership styles? Digital economy, gig economy, HRM, and information system. What is a human resource information system? Talks about his book he published. And in India, we are suffering from unemployment problem. In India, we see huge unemployment problem. So growth of economy getting employment are the same thing or different things? So how to resolve this unemployment crisis, and Atmanirbhar Bharat, which we talk about. So how to attain that, how to get that, which sectors are going to create more jobs, and in which sector professionals should enter, technocrats should enter, so that they get more opportunities. Because we talk about, this is the knowledge economy, deglobalization we are talking about. So in the knowledge economy, the person who will have right knowledge and use that right knowledge at the right place and at the right time is going to grow. So he talks about work-life balance also. What is the work-life balance? How to attain it? That thing he talks about. The best part of interaction with visionaries like Dr. Thite is they have they have a very diverse and enriched experience of their life, and within couple of minutes, I mean, during the interaction time, they give you the crux of that. And because that is their own experience, so we understand the meaning and worth of that kind of experience. So that is what is this interaction all about. I'm very sure the way I have got benefited through this interaction, you are also going to get a lot of benefit from this interaction. Listen to Dr. Thite, many ideas will flow, many ideas will come to your mind. It will be inspirational thing for you also. Many of you who are already working in industries, leading hectic life or planning to lead that life, or planning to lead a life like Dr. Thite is leading. So you will certainly get benefited from this interaction. So listen to this and let's go and get benefited from such interaction.
Welcome, Dr. Mohan, and thanks a lot for giving your very precious time to me this morning in India and afternoon in Australia.
Thank you, Vijayender. Really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk to your audience.
Okay, great. Sir, I'm very sure there are a lot of current relevant informations, especially for technocrats, which are going to come from your side today. Before I have made a questionnaire, sir, I have made some kind of questions to interact with you. So before I start that, I would request you to please briefly introduce you to all of us here. Your little academic journey. You are from India. Presently, you are in Australia. So very briefly, your journey, sir.
Okay. Well, I've essentially have had 33 years of career as a human resource management professional. I'm originally from North Karnataka, and I traveled all over Karnataka as my dad was a government officer. And after I finished my BA in economics from Karnataka University, I moved to Bombay to do MA Economics from the famous Bombay School of Economics. I interrupted that briefly to take a position at Tata Institute of Social Sciences for their MBA in HR. The main reason being that it promised a lot of jobs than anything else. My learning at Tata Institute of Social Sciences was the biggest learning and the biggest influence on my career, so to say. The kind of friendships that I've formed, at that institute continue even today. And the way things were taught at Tata Institute, which I will talk to you a little bit later, also laid a very strong foundation for my career in HR. Then I joined Associated Cement Companies as a HR officer. So that was my first exposure to a manufacturing industry, which was just being deregulated in 86, 87. So suddenly from being a monopolistic industry, it became a kind of a highly competitive industry. So after about 4 years there, then I moved to IT, into the service sector. I worked for Tata Consultancy Services for a year. And then I was the first HR manager for Sintel, India. So yeah, I've worked both for a large and an upcoming organization in the IT sector. There was also the time when outsourcing was taking off in a big way. So people were moving in big numbers to the US and so on. So that was the start of the Indian IT revolution, so to say. So I've seen up close and personal how the industry struggled to establish itself in the beginning of the IT revolution. Then in 95, I moved to Australia as a permanent resident. And I did my PhD from Swinburne Institute of Technology in Melbourne. And my PhD topic was on project leadership in IT. I'll talk to you a lot about that, because I think that topic has a lot of relevance to your audience. So after I did that PhD, I got into academia. And over the past 20 years that I've been in academia in Australia, I have done several projects. Now, being a strong practitioner person, all the projects that I've taken are burning topics. I'm more interested in solving the problems than in coming out with a beautiful but useless theory. So one of the first book I wrote was Managing People in the New Economy. That was linking HR with the knowledge economy. And then, having come from IT industry, I realized the importance of technology in the workplace. So my next project was on human resource information systems. That was the second book that I wrote in 2009. And just last year, I completely threw away that book because it was becoming redundant, as it was written in an ERP, enterprise resource planning era. But now we are in the digital era. So I wrote my latest book on EHRM, or digital HRM, last year. Then the other project I did was on Indian multinationals. As you know, multinational companies from emerging economies like China, India are becoming very prominent and making quite a bit of contribution. So I did a big study on Indian multinational companies, where I interviewed about 90 people, including Ratan Tata, Kiran Majumdar-Shah, Shibalal from Infosys, and Chandrasekaran from TCS, and so on. So I have had very close interaction with all the big industrialists from India, including Kumar Mangalam Birla, and so on. And so that was the last project. And the current project that I'm doing and where I'm publishing right now is on talent shortage at the global level, particularly in the STEM areas, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics areas. So that project also will be of quite a bit of importance to your audience, I guess.
Yeah. Dr. Mohan, it is quite, I'll say, diverse profile and very enriched profile you had. Sir, before I start my questions, there's 10 questions I will be discussing with you. I can't stop myself from asking one particular question from you on the basis of your journey. And that is, sir, when we see situation in India, we do not find many examples or the trend where people leave corporate for academia. They go and they join these kind of academic institutes, and vice versa. We don't find that much. I want you to tell us, sir, what is the reason why executive like you, who is doing very good in corporate world also, will feel like going to academia, and vice versa maybe. Why that is there, and why the rigidity in India? If you can answer us that.
That's a very good question, Vijayendra. But before I give you a kind of rosy answer by saying, I always wanted to be an academic since I was born or whatever, let me tell you very frankly that in the case of 99.99% of the people, their career is, mostly unscripted. Okay. Right? I mean, you basically take the opportunities as it comes, whether you want to call it destiny or whether you want to call it random occurrences in life or whatever, just life takes its own turn. I mean, for instance, when I grew up in Karnataka, I always knew that if I wanted to grow further, I should move out of Karnataka and go into Bombay, which was the ultimate dream city, right? Yeah. And once I reached Bombay, then, I'm talking about, early 1990s, Indian economy was not doing that well, and everyone wanted to go abroad. And so I thought, well, as a global citizen, I need to go overseas if I really wanted to expand myself and so on. And believe it or not, I chose Australia because I saw a movie called, Wind Rider, where, they had depicted beautiful beaches in Perth, Australia. And I thought, wow, what a beautiful country. So again, a random occurrence, right? Mm-hmm. Then when I came to Australia, when I tried to enter the industry, there was quite a bit of recession in the economy at the time, and we had never heard of the term recession. We always thought that everything is hunky-dory in Western countries, right? We still cling to that thought today, but that's not so. But anyway, there was a recession, and as you know, HR is highly location specific, right? So you need to have local experience and so on. So I thought, well, rather than doing another MBA locally, I might as well start doing PhD. Right. I'd already started, writing papers for Indian Express and Data Quest and so on when I was in India. So I had a flair for writing. And so when I did my PhD, it was a very pleasant experience. Unlike in India, the academic career is as bright as a private industry career. It's as remunerative as private industry career. And that is one of the reasons why in Western countries, they are able to attract the best talent, right? And lastly, one of the reasons why I decided to continue in academia was that, you get the best of both worlds. You get to do research and do consultancy in the private industry, so be in touch with the ground. But at the same time, get an opportunity to teach students and do research, publish papers, and so on. So I think all in all, not a bad choice.
Okay, great, sir, great. So now I come to my questionnaire, which I have prepared for the interaction today. And my first question is a very, very relevant for the current situation, and that is related to COVID-19, impact of COVID-19. As we know, sir, COVID situation has thrown many challenges, especially in the field of management of human resources. So based upon the current research studies on the effect of pandemic on the world of the work, what do you think are the key trends which are observed presently?
Okay, well, just 3 days ago, I did an industry webinar on this very topic, and I looked at a lot of research studies, but mind you, the pandemic is still underway, and it is just about 1 year old. And so the research studies are just coming out. Consultancy organizations like Gartner and others have done some studies. So let me give you the results of these studies about the effect of the pandemic, working from home and so on the world of work in 3 installments. One, what are the positive features that the research studies find of working from home, and what are the negative consequences that research studies find, and thirdly, what are the implications of those positive and negative findings on human resource management? All right. So in terms of the positive effects, there are 3 very important things. Number one, the studies show that having tasted, the working from home concept and having somewhat been quite successful at it, going forward, the research studies show that 48% of the people are going to work from home one way or the other post pandemic.
Okay, even if everything goes okay, then
that's right.
Okay.
That's right. So the hybrid working model, few days working in the office and few days working from home, is going to be the norm going forward.
So, sir, are you telling this related to IT industry only or across the industries?
I'm just saying generally. I mean, obviously, when it comes to manufacturing industry, if you're a worker or a manager in a factory, obviously you've got to go to the factory. You cannot, produce things from home, right?
Yes.
So I'm talking about knowledge work, the managerial work, administrative work, and so on. So generally speaking, across the world, because also keep in mind that today service industries dominate.
Yes.
Right? I mean, nearly 75% of the developed economies work on service industry.
Yes.
Okay. The contribution of the manufacturing industry has come down quite a bit to 10-15%. Agricultural industry almost negligible, and so on. Right. So keeping in mind that most of the employment today and tomorrow are going to be in the human capital intensive service industry, one can say that nearly half of the workforce would at least want, whether they can do it or not, because it depends on the organization, would at least want to work from home for 2-3 days a week.
Right, sir.
Now, the second most important positive finding is that 70% of the managers have reported same, if not better, productivity of employees when working from home. So, in the past, the collaborative technologies have always been there. All right. The Zoom was there and Microsoft Teams was there and so on. But there was this feeling that if somebody worked from home, they would be lazy.
Yeah.
They may not contribute. We can't see whether they are working or not, right?
Yeah,
so that fear of loss of productivity kept employers, insisting that employees come to work, right? But what the pandemic has shown is that the productivity remains the same, if not increases, if you let employees work from home. Okay, at least few days a week. That's a very, very important observation. And that's a big lesson for the employers. Okay. And thirdly, and equally importantly, from an HR perspective, among the fully remote employees, 48% of the employees display higher discretionary effort versus 35% who are never remote. Now, here I will explain what we mean by discretionary effort, right? Now, I need to go back to how the world of work has progressed over the years. Now, when the factory working started at the beginning of the 20th century, it was all workers who were asked to come to work and basically use their hands. They were never asked to use their brain, isn't it? Because the management said, well, we will do all the thinking, we will schedule your work, we will tell you what to do. All that you need to do is come and work, right? So the workers simply did their work and went home. There was no emotional attachment to the work as such. But now that we are in the knowledge economy, we are not in the industrial economy anymore. In the knowledge economy, the most important competitive advantage is the innovation and creative capability of the workforce, right? It doesn't matter whether you use the latest technology. It doesn't matter whether you are the biggest company in the world like Facebook, Apple. It doesn't matter whether you are the richest company in the world. That does not guarantee success going forward, isn't it? Yeah. The only thing that can guarantee success in the knowledge economy is the innovation and creativity of the employees. Yes. Right? That's the most important thing. Now, the knowledge economy works quite differently than the industrial economy. Yes. As I said, in the industrial economy, managers did all the thinking, whereas workers did all the work. Yes, sir. Whereas in the knowledge economy, the workers, do almost everything. They decide by themselves how do they problem solve. They decide when to come to work, where to work, how to work, whom to interact with, right? Because if you want to use the brain power of your workforce, you have to free them. You cannot tie them with bureaucratic culture and rules and regulations. A pehno, itna time pe aa jao, iske saath ye karo, uska permission le lo. All those kind of restrictions have to be removed if you want people to use their creativity. Which means that it is up to the knowledge worker today whether to share their knowledge or not with the company. You cannot force your knowledge workers to part with their knowledge. See the difference now between the knowledge economy and the industrial economy? In the industrial economy, all the control was with the management. That's why we call it command and control. Okay? Whereas in the knowledge economy, the control is now with the knowledge workers because knowledge resides in their brain and they can decide whether to use their brain or not. And when they go home, they can decide whether they want to come back to work to the same employer tomorrow or go somewhere else. Okay? So that's what we say. Today, the knowledge workers have the power to use their discretion. We call it discretionary effort. Okay? Are they willingly giving their best to the organization? Right? So what the research studies are showing is that among the fully remote employees, 48% of the employees are showing higher discretionary efforts. That means they are more engaged, they're more productive, they're more committed, they're more productive than, say, 35% of those who were never remote.
That's true.
Okay? So these are very positive features. Now, let me come to the negative effects of the working from home or the pandemic and so on. The first negative effect is the isolation. Okay. Isn't it? Increasing isolation from your peers, from your workplace, and blurring of boundaries between work and family. Right? I mean, if I'm working from home, I have to see whether I have washed my utensils, or cooking is going on while I'm at the same time participating in a online meeting, and so on. So the blurring of work between the work and home becomes more acute, particularly for those young families which have got children, and particularly the children are also confined to home. Well, God save you, right? Right. So the caring responsibilities becomes a bit more difficult. The second negative finding, Vijayendra, is that significant numbers of respondents feel that their exercise, diet, and emotional well-being has worsened during the COVID-19 lockdown. I mean, this is obviously, intuitive, right? Because when you're confined to one place for a long period of time, it has got a lot of physiological and psychological effects on your well-being, right? So now that we have looked at both the positive and the negative features, what are the HR implications?
Yes.
Right? Now, again, their research shows that over 40% of the people say that they have not been sufficiently supported by their employers, and that their team was not as productive working from home as in the office.
Okay.
So the workers want to work from home, but they don't feel supported. And we'll talk a little bit later as to what do they mean by support. Another HR implication is 77% of the respondents have said that employers should provide guidance and rules around working from home. Right? I mean, you've got to obviously have a fantastic IT infrastructure which works, right? You have to provide the skills to your employees. Like, for example, the university staff, we have been teaching from home for the past 1 year. Not all of us were trained in delivering online lectures, but we had fantastic IT support, to bring us up to skill, right? And then there's some netiquette rules. When you're holding meetings or attending meeting online, what are the etiquettes around or netiquettes around working from home and so on, right? How can you balance your work and also have some kind of rest? Because mind you, now people can be working from 24/7. So you need to have rest, you need to play music, you need to play sports to keep yourself fit and so on. So again, there is quite a bit of adjustment required, and they are expecting employers to provide those skills and provide help and so on, right? I'll just come to two more HR implications before we move on to the other ones. Now, another research finding says that now this is an important one. There is a massive gulf between what managers think and what workers are thinking, right? Managers believe that employees' creativity and innovation has been negatively impacted because of working from home, whereas employees actually feel that, hey, that's not the case. Actually, we are as creative and as innovative as before, right? So there is some kind of resistance from the managers, Vijayendra. And now that is to be understood from a purely psychological perspective. Because mind you, one of the problems with you engineers have inadvertently committed is that you think that, now I'm just joking, right? I mean, I'm not making an allegation, that typically engineering brain thinks that, human beings just work and think like machines. Okay. Now here I am referring to the great Frederick Taylor, who is supposed to be the father of the scientific principles of management. Or Frederick Taylor kaun tha? He was an engineer. And what Frederick Taylor thought was that, hey, it's very simple. If you want to do any work, you study that work closely, divide it into small pieces, okay, find out the best way of doing that work, and then tell workers how to do that small pieces of work. Bingo. Bas ho gaya, work done. What Frederick Taylor did not realize was that managers, more than anything else, are human beings.
Yes.
So their decision making is more emotional than rational.
Yes.
You cannot assume that managers always take the decisions in the best interest of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because इसमें उसका स्वार्थ भी रहता है, political skills भी रहता है, and so on, right? So managers have a lot of emotional inputs into their decision making than rational decision making, right? So why do managers feel that employee motivation and creativity has suffered? Because inside of their mind they are scared of giving up their managerial control.
Okay.
Because for managers it's all about control. And if the worker comes to me, sits in front of me from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I can see personally that that person is working. अगर वो आदमी नहीं है, तो then suddenly I'll think, oh, what the hell is happening? Is he working or is he not working? The computer says it's on, but maybe the guy is watching a movie or something, right? There is a lot of distrust because managers by nature do not want to give up command and control. And it's in all of us, Vijayendra. I'm not blaming managers. If you and I become managers tomorrow, we will do exactly the same thing, right? So the most important implication of working from home, Vijayendra, is that unless the organizational culture changes, unless the managerial mindset changes, all this gains and this new realization that we have had about working from home will go out of the window, right? But a lot of people are saying, oh my God, the world of work will change forever. No, I don't think so. The skeptic in me tells me that if there is no change in our mindset and change in the organizational culture, everything is going to come back to normal. That managers will still insist that people come to work rather than work from home.
Great. So that is how you have very beautifully mentioned, sir, positive and negatives for working from home. And I'm sure these findings which you had, they're across the nations also. And that is what, when you were saying, I was feeling it also. That is very true, because the techniques and tools which we never adhered to in the beginning, like Zoom interactions and all, now we are far more dependent on these techniques and tools, even if everything comes to normal, which actually we are feeling as of now, things are opening up in different part of country. So still people are resorting to these kind of things. So beautifully explained, sir. Go to next question, and that is related to project leadership of the technical professionals. So sir, how will you define the leadership? That is my first question. So, and also I want you to share your views with us on the leadership style, because there are different kind of styles a leader follow, that depend upon the place where he's working, the kind of workers he's managing, etc. And my question is relevant for the leadership style for managers in information technology domain, IT projects के लिए what kind of leadership style is required, when we know that in IT we get normally a more skilled laborer or more skilled workforce.
Okay, so now we are talking about one of my most favorite topics, because this is the topic on which I did my PhD, right?
Okay, great.
And when I was doing a PhD, the reason why I decided to focus on technical project leadership was because in the IT industry where I worked, and this is applicable to all kinds of engineering and any kind of technology sector, is that you are basically recruited into a technology company based on what? Based on your technical skills.
Yes.
है ना? अगर आपने मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग किया है या आईटी डिग्री किया है, whatever, based on your technical skills you are recruited into the company as a programmer or engineer or whatever. Then when you start doing very well as a technical professional, what does the management do? It promotes you as a team leader, as a project leader, and so on. Now, when they promote you, do they also see that do you have the right people management skills? Because keep in mind that any leadership position, Vijayendra, whether it is at the team leader level, project level, location level, organizational level, whatever level, more than 80% of your job as a leader involves managing people, managing conflicts, negotiating, mentoring, role modeling, feedback giving, and so on. Okay, hardly 20% of your skill is technical when you are a leader. But organizations promote you because of your technical capability. And if they don't have the people skill, what happens? The organizations end up losing a good technical person and gaining a poor leader because the leader is not. So I had seen that firsthand in the IT organizations that I'd work. So I said, okay, what is the best leadership style then to manage technical projects? That's why I started doing that PhD study. And there, I'm talking about 95 to 98. Okay. At that time, and even today, the most popular leadership model in the management is called Transformational Leadership Model. Okay, by Bass and Avolio, right? So what that model tells you is that there are transactional leaders and then there are transformational leaders. Okay. And the model says that it is the transformational leader who is far more successful, who is far more effective than transactional leader.
Okay.
So I took that model and I say, okay, very popular. Let me say, just see whether it works in the IT industry, project management or not. So I did surveys and interviews of various companies, about over 35 companies in Australia on that model, right? Now, let me explain the model a bit to you. Transactional leader is the person who is more interested in the immediate transaction. Okay, you give me this, I'll give you that. All right, so you do this work and I will give you promotion, I will give you salary increase or whatever. That's what is called transactional. Okay, now one of the features of transactional leadership is, I'll tell you about two which are important in this case. One is called contingent reward. Now, contingent reward means having an arrangement with your subordinate that if you give me so much effort, I will give you so much reward. Contingent reward. I will give you reward contingent upon you fulfilling these obligations. That is one of the features of transactional leadership. The second feature of transactional leadership is what we call as management by exception positive. Now, what is management by exception? Meaning I will not intervene unless necessary. Okay, if it is necessary, of course I will intervene. Okay, management by exception positive. There are some people who practice management by exception negative. Matlab, no matter what happens, I won't intervene. So these people are basically not leaders at all. They are just sleeping on the wheel. Okay, so the subordinate comes and says, "Mere ko resources nahi hai, paisa nahi hai, time nahi hai." Somebody is not cooperating, and this negative leader will say, "So what can I do?" That's called management by exception negative.
Okay.
But management by exception positive is, well, if you got, I won't interfere, but if there is any problem, you come to me, I will solve it.
Can we call it laissez-faire, sir? What term we use?
Beautiful. Now that is another. Laissez-faire is completely out of the picture. Even if the house is burning, I'm not going to intervene.
True.
Obviously, a completely negative style, and let's not talk about it. Okay. So a transactional leader is contingent reward. Okay, has very clear set of expectations. You do this, I'll do that. And management by exception positive. I won't interfere unless there is a problem. Right? That is transactional leadership. Then there is transformational leadership. Now, transformational leadership means somebody who transforms you as an employee, as a person, and so on. So this transformational leader is not just interested in your current work. He is interested in your career as a whole. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how can you grow? What skills you need to have? What help you need? Okay, you have this strength and you have this weakness. How can we work on your weakness? How can we use your strength? Okay, so a transformational leader is intellectually stimulating, he or she has got a lot of charisma. Okay. So what this model says is that a transformational leader is far more effective than a transactional leader. But even in transactional leaders, that contingent reward is very important because people want to know what is in it for me.
Yeah.
Right. So that is a model. So I tested that model. But what I did, well, IT projects are not like any other projects. And so I also did quite a bit of study on technical leadership. Okay. And came out with certain characteristics of technical leaders. And one of the characteristics I included in the study was what I call as organizational catalyst. Meaning he's the person who basically fights for the team, gets all the resources that is needed, provides you with stretch assignments. Stretch assignments meaning challenging assignments. Because if you give boring assignment, people get bored and then they tune off. Right? Now, to cut the story short, basically, my research study showed that in a technical project situation, one needs to have transactional contingent reward behavior. One needs to have transformational intellectual stimulation, because as a boss, I'm looking to you to learn. So you need to intellectually stimulate me, right? You need to tell me, and I need to believe you. That's why you need to have charisma. People need to have trust in you.
That's true.
Right?
True.
So yeah, so that's a kind of leadership style. But the study concluded with two things, saying no one leadership style is applicable to all situations.
That's
right?
true.
When the project is going through tough time, you need to be a tough boss. So you need to have a flexible leadership style, number one, sometimes transactional, sometimes transformational, and so on. That's one. And second, you also need to have top management support, right? You need to have a lot of resources to carry out your work.
True. Dr. Mohan, very beautifully explained, transactional, transformational. I would like to ask you, sir, two questions related to this explanation which you have given. My first question is, there's very thin line when we talk about manager and leader, management styles, leadership styles. Manager is, what I understand, is always a person who is interested in maintaining status quo, not using much experimental things, innovative creativity, not leading the people by examples. Leader, on the other hand, is something which is visionary, transformational thing which you mentioned. Sir, I want you to explain us in very simple terms, what do you think is the difference between manager and a leader? And when we talk about CEO of a company, do we call him leader or manager? And where this thin line breaks? I mean, how can we differentiate?
Okay. Now, in a way, as far as people are concerned on the ground, manager and leader are the same, because both have got power.
Yes.
Both have got influence, positive or negative.
Yes.
Okay. And they use the power either in a positive way or a negative way.
True.
So as far as a layman is concerned, there's not too much of a difference between manager and a leader. Both have got power and influence. Okay. But from an academic perspective, Vijayendra, a manager is task oriented.
Yes.
Whereas a leader is people oriented.
Great.
Okay. A manager is an executioner, whereas a leader is a strategy architect, one who formulates a strategy. Okay.
And
now, yeah.
So we can say that manager with passage of time climbs the ladder and becomes the leader.
That's right. Absolutely. You start your journey as a manager under the under the control and command of a particular leader. Okay. But a manager is only executes the current work. They don't do the strategic thinking, strategic planning, and so on. That is the job of the leader.
So can we also say, Dr. Mohan, like in today's knowledge economy, we need more leaders than managers? Can we say that?
Yes and no, Vijayendra, because no, because in strategy, keep in mind that execution is as important as policy formulation. You might have a brilliant strategy on paper.
Yeah.
America thought it had a brilliant strategy when it went to Iraq. What happened? 10 years later, they were still bogged down there.
Yeah.
Right? You might have a brilliant strategy, but execution is equally important. So when it comes to execution, it's managers who's more important.
Very true.
Also keep in mind that when it comes to motivating employees, okay, why employees resign, why employees continue in their job, okay, what makes people stick to their job or leave their job? It is not necessarily the organizational strategy, because that's too higher level for them. For them, the most important person is their immediate supervisor, who's the manager, right? If the manager is a bully, if the manager engages in sexual harassment and so on, if the manager is very badly managing, then no matter how great my leaders are, my CEOs are, my general managers and so on, I'm still going to quit and leave because I interact with my manager, not my leader.
That's true.
Right? True. So from that perspective, both managers and leaders are important.
Perfect.
But from a knowledge perspective,
yes,
keep in mind that today the emphasis is more on self-leadership.
Yes.
You are supposed to manage everything yourself, your career.
Dr. Mohan, my next question to you is related to career management of technical professionals. Now, from an international perspective, globally perspective, if we talk about, can you please share your insights, sir, on future of the career for technical professionals?
Okay, let us talk about careers in general.
Yeah.
All right. In the 60s and 70s and 80s, when your father or your grandfather worked, what did they do? They worked for the same organization. Maybe they worked in the same job for the rest of their career with the same skill set and retired.
They were proud of that.
They're proud of that. They're proud of that. But at that time, promotions were based on your loyalty to the organization and your tenure. If you are put in 10 years work, then you become a manager. 20 years, then you become a senior manager and so on. Now, whether you are productive, whether you are smart, it does not matter. You put in the tenure, you get the promotion.
Yes.
Right? But at the same time, career management was completely handled by the organization.
Yes.
From the day you were recruited as a trainee until you retire, everything was decided by you. अगर आपको क्या training चाहिए, आपको किधर transfer करने हैं, आपको क्या skills चाहिए, everything was decided.
Everything.
Right? You basically surrendered yourself to the organization. You became a loyal employee. Now look at what is happening. Look at what is happening. First of all, the percentage of full-time positions is coming down drastically.
Yes.
The percentage of what we call as gig workforce is increasing.
Yes.
Right? These people don't have permanent jobs.
Yes.
Right? Now, in that kind of a situation, managing your career is your own responsibility.
Yes.
The organizations might help you if they want to by giving a training program or transferring you to the places that you require and so on. But they will not do that also. Right? So at the end of the day, the most important career lesson today is what the organizations are telling you is, I wrote a paper and the title of the paper called Help Us, but Help Yourself. The Paradox of Contemporary Career Management. So what the organizations are telling you is that help us because, there is so much competition, globalization and so on. But when it comes to helping yourself, well, you're on your own. Right? And so we can no longer depend on the employers. That's number one. Number two, in the past, for technical people, when I was a HR manager in IT companies, we used to have two parallel tracks, Vijayendra. One was a technical track, another was a managerial track. Okay? So if you did not want to become a manager, and many people don't want, they'll say, I can as well deal with a machine than with people, because people are far more unpredictable. So if you continue in technical, fine, you can continue there and retire as that. But if you want to go higher up in your organization, then you got to go for leadership positions, managerial career rather than technical career. So jo parallel tracks the, isn't it? But now those things have been blurred again, because today the focus is both on technical skills as well as on behavioral skills,
Okay.
communication, negotiation, interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence, cross-cultural skills, all those things. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later.
Okay. So, my next question, sir, I would like to ask you is related to the digital work and workforce in the gig economy. But before that, Dr. Mohan, I would request you to please explain this term gig, though that is discussed in this particular question also. What is a gig economy? Just now you mentioned about the gig workforce also. So I would request you, before you answer this next question, you please explain us what is the meaning of this gig economy, gig workforce, gig as a term. And now I ask you my question also parallelly. Digital, when we talk about making the work more digital or workforce more digital, we know that workplaces have accelerated in the recent years. We have seen that particular trend. What are the implications of the same in on the future of the work when we talk about making everything is digital, digital workforce, digital work in this particular gig economy? So what is the gig economy? What is this term gig? And what is the impact of this entire thing on the work?
Okay. Now, I talked to you briefly before about the distinction between the industrial economy of the 20th century and the knowledge economy of the 21st century.
Yes.
So the current century, we call it by various terms. We call it digital economy, we call it knowledge economy, and we call it gig economy.
Yes.
And all three have got different reasons as to why we call them.
Right.
First, we call it knowledge economy because, as I said before, the most important competitive advantage today is the knowledge of your company, the knowledge of your workforce, and so on. That's why we call it knowledge economy. Right. Okay? The next, we call it digital economy because the digital technologies have become very, very disruptive.
Okay.
Isn't it? They are destroying existing well-established industries and creating altogether new industries.
New one.
Right? I mean, we talk about Apple, Facebook, Google.
True.
We know how the digital economy is shaping up.
True.
Right? So that is digital economy. Intelligent, automatic processing is what is behind the digital economy.
Yes.
Right? Then the third one is gig economy.
Okay.
Now, the word gig comes from arts and culture industry.
Okay.
Okay, so where the artists would perform various gigs. Now, for example, if you're a musician.
Okay.
Okay, so today I have a gig at Marriott Hotel.
Okay.
Tomorrow I have a gig in some arts center.
Okay.
Okay. Third day I have another gig in some college.
Okay.
So these are all various gigs I'm performing as a musician. Right? Now, if you see what's happening today because of the emergence of the platform-based digital technologies, like for example, Airbnb, okay, is the biggest accommodation provider without owning a single property.
Okay. Yeah.
Uber is the biggest transportation company without owning a single car. So all these are platform-based. You go to the app, you open the app, and you use that. Now, in terms of skills and using the skills, the same thing is happening.
Okay.
Okay. So, for example, let us say I'm a HR officer. Okay. So I don't have a permanent job. Now there is a website for management skills. On those websites, companies keep posting positions. They say, we need an HR officer who has got experience in working in a university, and this is a 12-month position. So I go and apply for that job or for that gig, mind you. Sorry, I apply for that gig. I go and get that gig. I finish the gig, and then I move on to the next gig. So today, most of the service jobs are in this position, whether it is accountants, lawyers, medical transcriptions, higher education industry, engineers. These are all becoming gig jobs.
Okay.
Which means you don't have a permanent job with any one company, Vijayendra. You just go from one gig to another. from one employer to another. They're not even employer because you are your own employer. You are only giving your skill to that company.
That is also called, Dr. Mohan, freelancing. Somewhere you used in your research papers.
That's right. That's right. You're right. You're right.
So that is how it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this gig economy is something which is outcome of this entire thing, sir? Pandemic situation or something? Or this was to come otherwise also?
Well, I mean, this has been there from the beginning of the 21st century.
Okay.
Okay. So some research studies show that nearly 25% of the knowledge work in the US is now in the gig economy. Okay. So we are not talking about lower level Uber drivers or Uber food delivery people and so on. We are talking about high level, engineering, architects, designers, tutors, professors, and so on. We are talking about high level gig here, not just low level Uber and other.
Great. Dr. Mohan, partially you have answered my next question also, sir. And but I want again to ask you this question, and that is related to some kind of core competencies and skills which we look forward in people who in this gig economy. So what kind of competencies or what kind of skills should the workforce have to survive or thrive in the gig economy?
Now again, I go back to the industrial economy and the knowledge economy. I go back to what kind of companies we had in the 60s and 70s and what kind of companies we have today. This is a massive difference, right? In the past, the emphasis was on having one skill and being a master in that skill.
Right.
Whereas today the emphasis is on multi-skilling, isn't it? In the past, the emphasis was on one job. Today, the emphasis is on shifting from one job to another.
Another job.
Okay. So from one skill to multiple skills, from one gig to another, to a multiple gigs, and so on. Right. So what's happened as a result is there is a big difference between skills and competencies.
Okay.
Now, skills are meant to perform a particular task.
Yes.
With a particular skill.
Right, sir.
Okay. So if I am looking for a Oracle database administrator, it is a particular skill for a particular task. Okay. But if I'm looking for a software architect, that's where competency is required, not just the skill. Do you see the difference?
Yes.
An Oracle DBA requires a specific skill, whereas a software architect in general requires, a range of competencies. Okay. So now, skill is short term for a particular task, right, and for a specific situation. Competencies are more long term and more career oriented, right? Now, one of the competencies you require today is, for example, customer interaction, customer happiness. Now, it does not matter what job you do, Vijay, whether you're an academics or engineer or politician or whatever, customer delight is very, very important.
That's true.
That's a competency.
That's competency.
The second competency is emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Pehle kya tha? If you're a rank holder, well, you would get a job based on that. Now, today, over and above academic intelligence, you also need emotional intelligence. Why? Because most of the jobs are in service industry, and in service industry, there's a lot of emotions attached to it. When you go to a restaurant, when you go to see a movie, and so on, so they're all emotion-filled jobs.
True. And
in order to manage emotion, you should control not only your emotions but also the emotions of others.
Yes.
So that requires emotional intelligence.
That's
cross-cultural skills, competency. All these are competence. That's why we call it competency-based careers.
Great. Dr. Mohan, my next question, and I'm sure that is also one of your favorite, sir, is related to entrepreneurship. India is a huge country, sir. India is a very big country, and as you are aware about the kind of programs government is running, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and to promote the entrepreneurship, self-employment kind of programs in India. I want to ask you, sir, like for the economy like India, which conventionally in the beginning, in when we got independent, we started with the more and more government-oriented, public sector-oriented employment and jobs. Now we have come to the stage where we are thinking of these are shrinking, and government is planning even to privatize these public sectors, and we are thinking of private sector where there will be jobs. And we are realizing that even that is not sufficient, but yes, self-employment, something should come out from there, and people should become capable to generate employment for them. And also now the onus is on technocrats who will get into entrepreneurship, not only get their own self-employment but generate jobs for others. So it is my personal view, sir, that unless until we inculcate the spirit of entrepreneurship into the technocrats or the capable skilled people in a country like India, unemployment problem cannot be resolved and economy cannot grow. So my question to you, sir, is how do you think entrepreneurship can be inculcated in country like India, and what are the traits which you think can be inculcated in people, and what is the ecosystem, what is the enabling environment, whatever stakeholder can provide that, maybe government or something. So what enabling environment is required and how we can inculcate that? It is a very big question, at least in country like India, sir, and many economic problems are related to that.
Sure. Very, very valid question, very valid observation, Vijayender. And this is something that is relevant to the whole global economy, not just the Indian economy.
Yes.
For the simple reason that going forward, there are a number of jobs that are going to disappear forever.
Yes.
In fact, one research study shows that 40% of jobs that exist today will disappear forever in the next 15 years.
Next 15 years.
In the next 15 years. Okay, now I'm talking about OECD studies, meaning in developed economies, this is what is happening, right? Because of artificial intelligence, because of automation, and so on. So in every economy, the question of how do we promote employment is the biggest challenge.
Yes.
Because going forward, your economy may grow, but the employment may not grow simultaneously. You may become a rich country, but you may have a lot of unemployed people.
Yes.
Because the prosperity today comes from technical productivity, AI, automation, and so on. So that is a big problem. There is no doubt about it. But there's a big difference between countries like India and other Western countries, because first of all, we are one of the youngest countries on the planet today. Our age is average age, or median age is only 28 years. More than 50% of our population is under 50.
Yes.
Okay, millions of people come to the labor market every year. It's going to be a massive challenge providing employment, no matter what government is in power, what policy the government has. This has to be recognized as a very important thing. Now, for a big country like India, now if you look at how China addressed this issue, they placed a lot of focus on infrastructure. Okay, because infrastructure sector still provides plenty of jobs: road construction, railway construction, bridge construction, and so on and so forth. So our infrastructure is yet to improve and become compatible with that of China and all other countries. And so there are still a lot of jobs left in infrastructure business. Okay. Now, the observation that you made that going forward there are not going to be plentiful jobs, and therefore people have to find their own jobs. They have to become self-employed, and if they become entrepreneurs, wow, great, they can even give jobs to others. Now, this is exactly what Mr. Narendra Modi had in mind when he said, even if you can sell pakoda on the street, that is still. Now people made fun of it, saying, "Oh, do you want the whole of India to sell pakoda?" That is the stupidity of some of the politicians and policy thinkers, when they don't realize what is being said is that hospitality is one of the biggest sectors,
Yes.
service sectors where employment can be generated.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, we have to break this mentality
Yes.
that, I should get an office job, I should get an engineer job, I should become a doctor, and so on. So the mentality has to start at the national level in terms of leaders talking about it, in terms of parents realizing that, hey, we can't expect all our children to become doctors and engineers like we used to dream, right? They are going to pursue different occupations, different hobbies, different passions like sports and other things. And then there is big business in all that. Right? I mean, I did quite a bit of work for Gold Coast Commonwealth Games, workforce study, because these are the kind of large projects which generate a lot of employment.
That's true.
Right? So you have to start opening up your mind and encouraging your children right from their childhood. Okay, this independent thinking, this allowing them the freedom to pursue, different things. Not just, urging them to get a government job, a fixed salary, and so on, because those jobs are not going to be there, Vijayendra. So first of all, it is going to be a question of mindset of the country as a whole, of your leaders, of the parents, and so on. And even of the teachers, because even teachers have to encourage students to do out-of-the-box thinking. Okay? Now that takes me to the next question, which is the ecosystem for the entrepreneurship. Now, to be an entrepreneur, first of all, you've got to have imagination. You've got to have creativity. Okay, this kind of ratta marrowing that we used to do in our school. The teacher tells you something, you just write down the same notes and you write the same thing in the exam. That kind of education is not going to take us anywhere.
It's true.
That education has to come out of those traditional boundaries where we encourage people to engage more in problem solving rather than learning theory. Okay, learning on the job, having more and more apprenticeships. That's going to be very useful, right? So out of the box thinking is very important for an entrepreneurship. Now, the second input that is very much needed for entrepreneurship to develop in a country is what the government is doing in terms of its policies and various financial schemes and so on. Now, when I interviewed Kiran Mazumdar-Shah, she was telling me how she had terrible difficulty getting loans from the banks for many of her innovative projects, because the thinking was that, hey, we Indians are good imitators. We are not innovators. So for any kind of innovative project, there was no funding available. There was no bank loans available. Now imagine if a person of the caliber of Kiran Mazumdar-Shah of Biocon Industries can face that problem. Can you imagine the problem of you and me? If I want to start a business, or how is it going to, So government policy is very important, and the government of India has taken a lot of initiatives. Digital India, even Atmanirbhar. All of this will contribute, Vijayendra, for the development of that entrepreneurship. So our workforce today is young. It has broken all the shackles of the past.
Yes.
Right. They're independent thinking. They know whom to vote for. They know what to support, what to believe, and so on. So that combination of right mentality, combination of right government support is really going to be helpful. And we also need a fire in the belly.
Yeah.
I mean, to be an entrepreneur, you need to have that fire in the belly. Because keep in mind, now this is my third and most important observation as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. Now, we romanticize this concept of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Everybody should be entrepreneur. It's very easy to say. What we don't realize, Vijayendra, is that in any entrepreneurship activity, in any innovative activity, the failure rate is going to be very, very high.
Yes.
Upwards of 80%.
Yes.
All right. When we look at Apple, when we look at Facebook, when we look at Google, we say, oh my God, they're coming out with all these products. But do we know that for every successful product or service they launch, there are 100 failures behind that? which you and I don't come to know about.
Yeah.
So we think that, my God, these guys are coming.
Whatever they launch, they are successful, we think.
Exactly. You take any filmmaker.
Yeah.
You think every film that director makes is successful? No.
Mm-hmm.
So the failure rate is going to be high. And therefore, one of the critical requirements in an entrepreneurship-driven economy, Vijayendra, is the ability to manage failure.
Mm-hmm.
Success koi bhi manage kar sakta hai.
Mm-hmm.
Success has got a lot of fathers, but failure is a bastard, meaning, nobody will own failure. Hai na? So ability to manage failure and using failure as a stepping stone to success and learning from mistakes is very, very important.
That's true. That's true. Beautifully said, sir. How to manage failure is the key word, I suppose, for entrepreneurship. No doubt this is a buzzword whenever you go to premium institutes, IITs, and everywhere. Every student aspires to be there. But the moment failures start coming, then it is very difficult to manage that. So very beautifully said. My next question, Dr. Mohan, to you is a very good question to be asked from a person like you. And that is, sir, how to make a family, professional life and family balance, work-life balance, we call it, family balance, we call it. You are the person who has, I'm sure, led a very hectic lifestyle when you were in corporate, and now you are leading a very enriched lifestyle also in academia. So what is the relevance of this term, sir? Because why I'm asking this, because middle age level or up to middle age level, whatever effort oriented professional we find, we see that he is in the zeal of doing a lot of things, and in that process somewhere he compromises the families also. So what is your advice on that, sir? What is the relevance of this family and professional life balance, and how to attain it? And when we try to attain it, do we make the compromise with the work we want to do or work we can do? This is my question to you, sir.
It's a very, very important question. I think perhaps the most important question that you have asked so far, Vijayendra, because I'm in the evening of my career. I'm a middle-aged person, and like everybody else, in the past when I was young, I used to think differently. But now when I'm old, my children have grown up and, they have gone their own way and so on. This is the kind of evening of your career when you look back and say, well, what clicked and what did not click, right? So this is where the wisdom of age comes in. And I really want to send a strong message to the young people out there about how critical it is to manage your work and life. First of all, you need to decide whether you're going to work to live or you're going to live to work.
Yes.
Right? Now, I understand that it is a 24/7 society today. It is a dog-eat-dog world. It's very competitive. It's highly globalized. Technology is doing most of the work. So what future we have and so on. So I completely accept the fact that for today's generation, things are far more complicated than what it used to be, right? But this notion of I'm working to live is very, very important, because at the end of the day, when you reach my age, you realize that the importance that you gave to getting the best job with the best employer, getting rapid promotions, getting a lot of salary increases. You went for things which at the end of the day, when you retire or even when you breathe your last, you look back and say, oh my God, I went after those things that really mattered little to me, right? So when we talk about well-being, and a lot of companies today talk about employee well-being. When we talk about well-being, it's not only physical well-being, but also mental well-being, right? So when you're working under enormous pressure, you need to what is it that you're trying to achieve in your life? the narrower is your goal, the more selfish you become. And then later on, you realize that, you may end up with ex-general manager of, I don't know, Colgate India, with $1 million salary, a big house, a Mercedes car, but, a broken family relationship. Okay. Children don't respect you because you had no time for them when they were young. Right? Your spouse does not respect you because you did not share family responsibilities and you took all your frustration and burden on your spouse, and therefore you now end up having very fractured, bitter relationship with your spouse who matters the most. Right? Your parents died because you had no time for them and all they wanted from you was some time with you. They simply wanted to spend time with you, but you went after position, you went after salary, right? You went after status, you went after how do I create my image on Facebook and so on. And in the end, what did you gain and what did you lose? Isn't it? Because what matters at the end of the day is your family, is your friendships, and equally importantly, your contribution to the community. Okay, did you think beyond your immediate family? Did you think about the community? Did you think about, like for example, during the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs. Okay, did you continue to pay your maid servant? Or did you say, okay, no work, so no pay? Right? So did you think beyond your family? Because again, at the end of the day, in the evening of your career, what gives you the biggest satisfaction is what community service you have done. Right? So, work-life balance is very important. Now, how do you achieve it? That's why, fortunately, we come from a country where we have a very strong spiritual background. Right? And spirituality matters a lot. Now, by spirituality, I'm not saying go after some guru, go after some ashram, and so on. No, I'm saying, being spiritual, meaning understanding the essence of our culture, whether it is Bhagavad Gita or whatever. So you're doing yoga is very important, breathing exercises, physical fitness, going to the gym. So all these things kind of give balance in our life.
Beautifully said, sir. And when you were saying, I was feeling them. I was feeling all these things.
Well, unfortunately, Vijay, these are the things that you realize in the later part of your life. When it is too late, boss. When it is too late. And that's why I said my most important message to your young audience is this, that realize this now rather than, before it becomes too late.
It's really good, sir. Sometimes I feel that what work I'm doing, interviewing people like you, is great for me because at least I learn these things and repeatedly this comes to my mind. Yes, there is something which is far more important than what you are doing right now.
Yeah,
that's really good, sir. And my next question, Dr. Mohan, is related to knowledge economy. This another buzzword after when we talk about entrepreneurship and all. We always say India is going to become knowledge economy, knowledge based economy. India is going to become. Still, it has not come to that level, sir. So, what are the hurdles India is facing to become a successful knowledge based economy? And what do we mean by knowledge based economy, sir?
Okay, I think I have referred to the importance of knowledge in the knowledge economy, the importance of the service sector, and so on.
Right.
So when it comes to India, we are still making a transition from agrarian economy into the industrial economy.
Right, sir.
Isn't it? So still, they say over 50% of people still depend on agriculture, right? So. Our industrial economy has not developed to the extent that it is developed elsewhere. So we are still making that transition. But at the same time, we are also partly into knowledge economy. Keep in mind, Vijayendra, it's very easy to think negative about our country, about the problems in our country. And some people who are listening to this might say, oh, well, this guy went abroad and he's staying cushy in his house and now he's talking about what India should do. But the thing I'm saying is you also need to realize, and when you go abroad, you see the positives in your own country as well. Because we have this feeling that everything is hunky-dory in the Western country. There is no corruption. all people are honest, and so on. It's not really so. There are good people and bad people everywhere. Now, as far as our country is concerned, the population explosion that we have had actually, in some way has also become a demographic dividend, right? Because our biggest export is going to be human exports. The world today needs more and more of young people, because in the Western countries, people are becoming older, people are living longer, okay, and they're having fewer and fewer children. So even in China, keep in mind, the labor shortages have already started because of the one-child policy. The labor shortage have started, and in 20 years' time, trust me, China will start importing people from overseas.
Great.
Okay, if you read the demographics, the trends are already very much visible. China is already worried about shortage of people. So going forward, our biggest export is going to be human exports. Okay, people like me going overseas, and then we repatriate money back home and so on. So there are a lot of positives that are going on. Okay, but in terms of knowledge economy, I mean, that we are talking about topics on which I normally take course over 3, 4, 5 months time, right? So I don't want to bore your people too much, but as far as the knowledge economy is concerned, I just want to say one thing, that at the organizational level, right, we know what the government should do at the economy level, what the industry should do at the industry level. Now, for example, in IT industry, NASSCOM as an industry lobbying body has done a tremendous job, correct? But at the organizational level, it's very, very important to have a learning organization mindset. Okay, learning organization mindset. There is a person called Peter Senge from MIT who wrote a book on learning organization. Now, that gives very important clues in terms of how a company organization should become a learning organization to succeed in the knowledge economy. Because mind you, in the knowledge economy, what matters the most? The creativity and innovative capability of the workforce. So what do we mean by a learning organization? A learning organization is one where it is as debureaucratized as possible, as few rules and regulations as possible. When you look at Google, Facebook, Apple, and so on, you get to learn from them. Do they have any rules on what time you should go, what dress you should wear? I mean, their campuses look like college campuses. There is a lot of place to read, people sit anywhere, they're interacting with each other, and so on and so on. So a learning organization is one where there are as few rules as possible, because you cannot tie my hands on the back and ask me to do any work. So similarly, for your mind to work freely, it should have less rules. The culture should be enabling. Okay, people should feel like sharing their knowledge with each other and so on. Right?
That's great, sir. That's great. And we hope soon we come to that particular level. So I've already taken a lot of your time, sir. Only last 2 questions are left. So I am sure you'll bear with me, sir. So my next question to you is related to outsourcing. Sir, India has made some name in the domain of business process outsourcing, which what we call BPO. But we are far away from other sectors of economy like manufacturing and all. So what is your take on that, Dr. Mohan? Why we cannot go for outsourcing kind of things from developed nation to India, especially in the domain of this sector of economy, that is manufacturing and all?
Okay. Now, first of all, today China is regarded as the manufacturing hub of the world, and India is regarded as the services or IT services hub of the world. So we are the back office of the world and even pharmacy of the world and so on. Now, the best lesson to learn is from manufacturing industry. Just the way China wants to learn how can we succeed in IT like India has done, we also want to learn from China, well, how did they succeed well in manufacturing, correct? And I have I've visited China several times in connection with a lot of research projects. I've interacted with Chinese academics and so on. Now, what you see in China is that their infrastructure is today the best in the world.
Okay.
Now, I'm not even saying one of the best. I'm actually saying the best in the world. Now, for example, I went for trekking to Mount Kailash a few years ago. And Mount Kailash is in Western Tibet. And as you know, Tibet is in part of China. And Western Tibet is supposed to be very remote kind of area. You know, where Kailash Parbat and Mansarovar lakes and all are there. Even in that remote part, you know, they had mobile phone connectivity, fantastic roads, and so on and so forth. So their infrastructure is one of the best. And they have this plug and play kind of technology. So anybody who wants to come and do manufacturing in China, they just come and, you know, plug in and everything starts working. Okay. Now, obviously, we don't have that kind of system in India for two reasons. One, obviously, we're not as well developed as China in terms of infrastructure, even though we are making rapid progress and so on. We are still way off. We are still way off compared to China. And that is very important for a company. I mean, you know, Apple or Google, they're not going to come into India saying, yeah, you know, you're a democratic country, we love you. And so we will wait until you people develop. Nobody is going to wait. Okay, if you don't have it, they're not going to come. So that's number one. Number two, we are a democratic country, Vijayendra. You know, we cannot, you know, whip people, claim land and build factories, you know, pay people very low wages and so on, like China does.
We can do.
So it is foolhardy for us to expect rapid progress as China has done, because we are two different sets of economies. Okay.
That's true.
Now let us compare other manufacturing destinations in the world. Japan and Germany. Let us take an example. Now, Japan, as you know, their work culture is completely different. For them, working for 12 to 16 hours is very, very common. They go early in the morning and then come back, by middle of the night. So extremely industrious, hardworking, compliant kind of labor force is what Japan has got. But their population is also dwindling very rapidly. That's a different thing. Now let's take Germany. Now Germany is an excellent example because they have technical institutes which have been very, very important for them, right? I mean, if you take automotive industry or any industry that you take, their technical education is one of the best. In fact, I would tell your engineering audience that if they want to do master's study or whatever, they should go to Germany than any other country. And Germany is also taking people in now. So, there's another opportunity out there. So when you look at all these countries, we are by nature, by instinct, more suited to a services economy than to a manufacturing economy.
It's true.
Okay, and in manufacturing, we've got Atmanirbhar anyway. I mean, look, if we can cater to our own defense needs, today, nearly 75-80% of our defense procurement is done overseas. Right? If we can produce that ourselves, we have a massive economy ourselves, so we don't have to necessarily wait for outsourcing from other countries. Okay, we have our strength in services economy, and let us strengthen, continue that strength. As far as manufacturing is concerned, let us first, devote ourselves to our own country in terms of being Atmanirbhar, and then things will follow automatically.
That's true. Dr. Mohan, I have come to the last question of our interaction. It's a marathon session we already had. So, sir, my last question is something which is very, very relevant in the current situation, sir, and that is the term deglobalization. All of us have heard about the term globalization, which in India, what I can think of, we started in 1990s. 1991 was when we started LPG, liberation, privatization, globalization kind of things. Now we are talking about deglobalization, and that these kind of things were basically initiated with some kind of global political events like Brexit, what we know, and MEGA. So these things led to deglobalization. My question to you, sir, is like in this era of deglobalization, when there's a trend of deglobalization, what effect it will have on global talent attraction and their management?
Okay, so now this is about the latest project that we did. We did a 3-country study in Australia, UK, and US, looking at talent shortages in the high technology industry.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, what has happened is that from 1990s, globalization took off. Outsourcing, offshoring, they all increased. And more number of countries started shifting their jobs where talent was.
Mm-hmm.
So now in the beginning, at the beginning of the globalization, when it started, talent was going where the jobs were. Like people were migrating to other countries where the jobs were, engineering, doctors, and so on, right? So talent was going where the jobs were. And then when offshoring started, jobs started going where the talent was.
Okay.
Right? So all the companies started coming to India, China, and they said, hey, can you do these things in your own country rather than coming to our country?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So the world has come a kind of a full circle. Now, in the beginning, all the high-tech companies, the top 5 companies, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, they basically told the government that, hey, if you want us to dominate the technology space, want to become, world-class companies, then you've got to let us bring talent from wherever in the world. That's the only way we can be innovative and competitive. And the government said, yeah, fine, no problem, get that. Right? So the work permits were issued and people started coming in and all that. Now, then what happened? The manufacturing jobs in the Western countries started disappearing because all the manufacturing jobs went to US, all the services jobs went to India. And so the local people started losing their jobs. They couldn't upgrade themselves, upskill themselves very quickly because these guys were used to security of employment and all that. Suddenly, when they lost jobs, they didn't know how to upskill themselves. So unemployment started increasing in the Western countries. And people started becoming very resentful because first of all the jobs are going to China and India. And then in our own country, when we look around, you see so many Indians, so many Chinese. They are taking away all our jobs as well. Okay? So as a result, people started becoming very resentful, very bitter about other people taking their jobs. And politicians responded because politicians are looking for votes. And they said, we've got to do something about it. So they started tightening the screws. So that's why we call it deglobalization, where they stopped the flow of talent going to all different countries. Okay, so that's why it's called deglobalization. Globalization, it increased, deglobalization is decreasing. So if you see Brexit, why Brexit happened? Brexit happened because all the manufacturing jobs, the Polish people, the Czechoslovakia people, they started taking away all the plumbing jobs, electrician jobs in the UK. So the local people became very angry. So Brexit started. MAGA, Make America Great Again, Donald Trump's slogan. So that again became popular because of this resentment of the local people towards China, India, and so on. Right? So as a result, what is going to happen, Vijayendra, going forward is that this is a temporary phenomenon because globalization has now taken off. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle again. Okay, it's taken off. But you can't expect smooth passage to any country. I mean, is India going to give smooth passage to people from other countries? No, I mean they are going to put restrictions because everywhere the emphasis will be on providing local employment, local skills and jobs and so on. So, but as I said before, for India, the best opportunity still lies not only in becoming Atmanirbhar, because that provides more jobs, more employment, more self-confidence, and so on. But the second best opportunity is exporting our workforce to overseas countries. Because Indians are known to be most tolerable, most innovative, and they are the richest ethnic communities anywhere in the world, whether you take US or wherever. Indians are the most, the prosperous community, most tolerant. We don't create any trouble for anybody. I think so. Atmanirbhar and exporting human talent will be two big opportunities for India going forward.
That's great. We have come to an end of this beautiful session, Dr. Mohan, and let me thank you, sir, and let me tell you that the kind of points you have touched and told us today, like positives, negatives of work from home, very, very pertinent thing in today's time, like COVID situation, digital economy, gig economy, HR part, how to manage that, so, and work-life balance, those kind of things. Let me tell you these 10 questions which I asked you. You have given the crux of everything which a technocrat, which professional need in present time. And I'm very sure listeners are going to get a lot of benefit from whatever sir, words of wisdom have come from your side. And I understand the value of your time, sir. You have given me more than sufficient time today. And I'm really thankful to you for that, sir.
Thank you very much, Vijayender. It was really lovely talking to you. And again, in the evening of your career, you want to share your knowledge with others. And I have obviously special affinity for, people in India with whom I want to share. So you gave that platform. So thank you very much. And I wish your audience all the very best. If they want to ask me any questions, my email and everything profile is there on Google. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or email me. I'm more than happy to share my knowledge and learn from each other.
Thanks a lot, sir, for that. Thank you.